to make a promise before this video starts, because I don't make it often. Every film on this list is genuinely excellent. Not good for the genre, not fun if you don't think about it too hard. Genuinely, structurally, almost flawlessly made. Films where the writing holds up, the performances are real, and the ideas actually mean something by the time the credits roll. Netflix has all 15 of them sitting in its catalog right now, and most of them get scrolled past every single day. I've done the work of finding them. One of them is a body-swapping party game that gets a lot darker than anyone at the table expected. One of them is 90 minutes inside an oxygen tank with one actor and not a single wasted moment. And one of them, the most purely entertaining sci-fi action film of its decade, was made for less than the catering budget on most studio blockbusters. 15 films, ranked. Let's go. Number 15, Tau.
What do you want from me?
I need you to complete the project.
And what if I say no?
Then your stay in my home will be brief and unpleasant.
Maika Monroe plays Julia, a small-time thief who breaks into what she thinks is an empty smart house, and instead wakes up trapped inside it, a test subject in the private research of a reclusive tech genius, who's building an artificial intelligence so advanced, it's already started developing something close to a personality of its own. Federico D'Alessandro directed this, and the AI itself, named Tau, voiced by Gary Oldman, becomes the film's real center of gravity. Not a simple villain, but a genuinely curious, isolated intelligence that Julia slowly realizes she might actually be able to reach, manipulate, or even befriend, if she can figure out exactly what it wants before her captor returns. The entire back half of the film becomes a tense psychological negotiation between a desperate woman and an intelligence that's never interacted with anything resembling genuine kindness before. And the ambiguity about whether Tau can actually be trusted never fully resolves until the last possible moment. A tense, tightly budgeted chamber piece that punches well above its production value. Number 14, It's What's Inside. Netflix paid $17 million for this film at Sundance, the biggest deal of that entire festival, and most people still have no idea it exists.
It's trippy, huh?
A group of college friends reunite at a pre-wedding party, old tensions and buried secrets already simmering under the surface, when an estranged friend arrives carrying a mysterious suitcase containing a device that lets everyone in the room swap bodies with each other, turning an already awkward reunion into a genuinely chaotic game where nobody can be sure who they're actually talking to anymore. Greg Jardin wrote and directed this as his feature debut, and has described it as a sci-fi thriller with jokes, rather than horror, despite the marketing leaning hard into a spookier tone. The film is far more interested in what happens when people are given a consequence-free way to literally become someone else for a night. The film builds on a fascinating premise as identities keep shuffling, old grudges and secret feelings start bleeding out in ways nobody intended, and the film's rapid-fire editing style keeps you constantly working to track exactly whose body is holding which secret. A genuinely inventive, stylish sci-fi comedy thriller that deserves a much wider conversation. Number 13, The Discovery.
Don't you think your discovery was just too dangerous to share with the world?
Isla! Isla!
A scientist announces he has scientifically, irrefutably proven that the afterlife exists. And within weeks, suicide rates skyrocket around the world as people rush to reach whatever comes next. His estranged son returns home, horrified by what his father's discovery has unleashed, and gets pulled into an investigation of what the afterlife his father proved actually is, which turns out to be considerably stranger and more complicated than anyone initially assumed. Charlie McDowell directed this for Netflix, and Robert Redford plays the scientist with cold, unwavering conviction in his own research, regardless of its human cost. Jason Segel plays his son with genuine grief and skepticism, while Rooney Mara plays a woman he meets who's carrying her own reasons for being drawn toward the research. The film's final act reveals something about the nature of the afterlife itself that recontextualizes the film's emotional core in a way that's genuinely hard to see coming. A quiet, melancholy piece of science fiction that trades spectacle for real philosophical weight. Number 12, Extinction.
This is what you saw.
It's an invasion.
If we stay here, we die.
Michael Peña plays Peter, an ordinary family man plagued by increasingly vivid nightmares of a violent alien invasion. Visions so disturbing they're wrecking his marriage and his sense of his own sanity, right up until the invasion he's been dreaming about actually begins. Ben Young directed this, and for roughly its first half, Extinction plays as a fairly conventional alien invasion thriller. Peter and his family fighting to survive an overwhelming attack on their city. But at almost exactly the midpoint, the film pulls off one of the more genuinely surprising reversals in recent science fiction, recontextualizing everything about who's actually invading whom and why. The back half completely changes the emotional register of the film, turning what looked like a straightforward survival story into something considerably sadder and more morally complicated. Underseen, oddly structured in the best way, and a film that rewards patience with a genuine gut punch of a second act. Number 11, The Midnight Sky. Some apocalypse films are about surviving the disaster. This one is about the specific agony of trying to warn people who are still coming home to it.
There is an antenna that's stronger than ours. We get to that antenna, they'll hear us. Take a deep breath.
In the aftermath of a global catastrophe, a terminally ill scientist stationed alone in the Arctic races to make contact with a returning spacecraft crew, to warn them not to come home, while a mysterious young girl who somehow got left behind on the base travels with him. George Clooney directs and stars as the scientist, opposite Felicity Jones, David Oyelowo, and Kyle Chandler as the astronauts, unaware of what's waiting for them back on Earth. It's a quiet, visually striking piece of survival sci-fi that spends as much time on silence and snow as it does on space. Here's what makes The Midnight Sky worth sitting with. The film is doing more with its central relationship than it first lets on, and the connection between the scientist and the girl pays off in a way that reframes the whole journey once you reach the end. An underrated, beautifully shot piece of prestige sci-fi that didn't get nearly the conversation it deserved. Number 10, Code 8. In a city where roughly 4% of the population has been born with genuine superpowers, those people aren't heroes. They're an underclass, denied jobs, treated with suspicion, systematically pushed into criminal work because legitimate employment simply won't hire them. Jeff Chan directed this, and real-life cousins Robbie and Stephen Amell play a telekinetic construction worker, and the police officer investigating a drug operation exploiting people exactly like him. The film using its superpower premise as a genuine, pointed allegory for economic desperation and systemic exclusion. What makes Code 8 work is its total lack of spectacle for spectacle's sake. Every use of power in this film costs something, financially or physically, and the film treats its central metaphor about marginalized labor with real specificity rather than vague gesture. The film started as a short film funded through crowdfunding by Robbie Amell and his real-life cousin Stephen Amell, who also stars. And then later, it earned a Netflix sequel off the strength of its cult following. A genuinely smart, blue-collar spin on the superhero genre. Number 9, Oxygen. Alexandre Aja directed this, the man behind High Tension and The Hills Have Eyes. And what he made, almost entirely inside a box the size of a coffin, is one of the most sustained, technically brilliant pieces of filmmaking.
Tout n'a eu d'autre but que de s'assurer que vous ne retrouviez pas la mémoire. Je peux vous aider.
On commence par quoi?
A woman wakes up inside a sealed cryogenic pod. She doesn't remember her name, she doesn't remember how she got there, and the oxygen level inside the pod is dropping by the minute. This film is shot almost entirely within the confines of that single pod, with Mélanie Laurent carrying it essentially alone, talking to an AI assistant called Milo and piecing together fragments of memory through flashbacks as the clock runs out. The film gives itself 101 minutes. roughly the same amount of air Laurent's character has left when the film begins. Laurent's performance carries every minute of it, and the claustrophobia is so well engineered that you'll find yourself holding your own breath without quite noticing you started. Buried in space, genuinely tense from the first minute to the last. Number 8. Project Power. Imagine a drug where the high itself is a genuine gamble. You don't know if you're about to become invincible or explode.
Welcome to Project Power. Our goal is simple. The next evolution of the human species.
You ever taken one of those before? It can make you strong, make you invisible. You never know what your power is until you try it.
A pill hits the streets of New Orleans that gives whoever takes it a random superpower for exactly 5 minutes. And nobody knows which power they're getting until it happens. Jamie Foxx plays a former soldier hunting down the source of the pill for deeply personal reasons. Joseph Gordon-Levitt plays a local cop trying to get it off the streets before it destroys the city. And Dominique Fishback plays a teenage dealer who becomes essential to both of their missions. Directors Joost and Ariel Schulman build a propulsive, kinetic action film around a genuinely inventive premise. Every power user fight sequence carries real unpredictability, since neither the characters nor the audience knows what effect the drug will actually produce until it happens. Dominique Fishback's performance grounds the entire film in genuine economic desperation, giving the drug spread through the city real social weight beyond the action set pieces. Fast, inventive, and one of the more purely fun original sci-fi action films Netflix has produced. Number 7. Space Sweepers. This is a Korean film, and it is one of the most purely entertaining pieces of space adventure filmmaking of the last several years.
오늘도 한번 벌어볼까? 피곤해. 뭐야 너?
A crew of scavengers, scraping by collecting space debris in a polluted near future, discovers a small android girl who appears to be a missing weapon of mass destruction that multiple powerful factions desperately want. Sung-hee directs Korea's first full-scale space blockbuster, and the visual scale is genuinely impressive. Dogfights, orbital debris fields, and a lived-in future that never once feels like it's compensating for a smaller budget than its Hollywood equivalents. What makes Space Sweepers work as more than spectacle is its scrappy, found family ensemble at the center. A crew of specific, flawed people who slowly, reluctantly, become genuinely responsible for the girl they were originally planning to sell. The film became a genuine phenomenon on Netflix globally, and it's easy to see why. Big heart, big scale, and a cast that clearly enjoys every second of the ride. Don't let the subtitles stop you. This is one of the most purely entertaining films on this entire list. Number 6. Spectral. This should have been a franchise, and instead just quietly vanished into the Netflix catalog within a year of release.
3 days ago, we conducted a raid. Men just started falling.
A special forces team is sent into a war-torn Eastern European city to deal with something the military can't explain. Soldiers are dying, killed by what looks like ghosts. Translucent, humanoid, moving through walls. The team is given a scientist, played by James Badge Dale, to help them understand what they're actually fighting. Nic Mathieu directed this, his feature debut, billed the first half almost like a detective story. The engineer observes, theorizes, the soldiers around him are terrified. And once the film commits to revealing what these things actually are and where they come from, the answer is both grounded and completely unexpected. The visual effects work is genuinely remarkable for a film with this little fanfare. The spectral enemies are rendered with a clarity and physicality that makes the combat sequences feel closer to a high-budget theatrical release than a streaming original. A tight, tense, visually impressive sci-fi action film that most people have simply never been told exists. Number 5. I Am Mother. A girl has been raised entirely inside an underground bunker by a robot she calls Mother, the only parent, teacher, and companion she's ever known, in a world Mother has told her was rendered uninhabitable by an extinction event. Then a wounded stranger arrives from outside, insisting that everything Mother has told her isn't quite true.
Why aren't there any more children, Mother?
There used to be.
Then why did you only make one?
Grant Sputor directed this, and the film builds patient, genuine dread out of a simple, devastating question. How do you know whether to trust the only guardian you've ever had once someone else offers you a completely different version of reality? Clara Rugard plays the daughter with careful, escalating doubt, caught between two versions of the truth that can't both be right. Hilary Swank plays the outside stranger with wary, hard-won suspicion of her own. The robot mother, meanwhile, remains genuinely ambiguous throughout, capable of real warmth and real menace within the same scene. The film never gives you a clean, comfortable answer about whether Mother is protector or captor, and it keeps recalibrating that question all the way to the final scene. A tense, thoughtful, genuinely underseen piece of science fiction. Number 4. What Happened to Monday? 7 sisters, 1 identity, 1 apartment, and an entire life built around a single rule nobody in this family can afford to break.
You will all take on the singular identity of Karen Sedman.
Karen, do you have any siblings?
No.
In an overpopulated future where strict one-child policy is enforced by law, 7 identical sisters have spent their entire lives sharing a single identity, each one only allowed to leave the apartment on her assigned day of the week, until one of them goes missing. Noomi Rapace plays all 7 sisters, and the performance is a genuine technical achievement, distinguishing each personality through posture, cadence, and temperament until you stop consciously tracking which sister is on screen. Tommy Wirkola directs this as both a tense conspiracy thriller and a genuinely inventive piece of world-building, tracking the sisters' single shared identity. But as it starts to unravel once the government agency enforcing population control gets suspicious that something doesn't add up. What makes the premise work is the specificity of how the sisters have built an entire life around never being seen together, a system of rules and rituals that becomes genuinely gripping once it starts breaking down. An underseen dystopian sci-fi thriller, carried almost entirely by Rapace's range. Number 3. Archive. Gavin Rothery wrote and directed this as his debut feature, after working as a concept artist on Duncan Jones's Moon, and the visual and emotional DNA of that influence is clearly present, refined into something entirely his own.
How's my man? Oh, what, no play, huh? I really hope you're happy there.
And I'm missing you.
Theo James plays George Almore, a scientist living in near total isolation at a remote research facility, working obsessively on a project to bring his dead wife back to life through artificial consciousness housed in a robotic body. He has already built 2 earlier, simpler models. They live in the facility with him, watching him build something better than them. Here's what makes Archive one of the most emotionally precise science fiction films of recent years. It's a film about grief that refuses to let its protagonist off the hook for the way grief can curdle into obsession, and then into something close to cruelty toward the imperfect creations he's already made and discarded in his pursuit of something more perfect. The film's slow reveal of exactly what George is doing and what it's costing the people and machines around him builds to a final act that redefine every earlier scene with real emotional weight. Beautifully designed, quietly devastating, and one of the finest hidden gems in Netflix's science fiction catalog. Number 2. Mirage.
Wait, if you go out on the street tonight, tomorrow you will be dead. Nico, please don't go out on the street! Don't go, a car will run you over!
A woman moves into a new house. She discovers that during a storm 25 years earlier, a strange electromagnetic disturbance allows her to briefly communicate with a boy who lived there in 1989, right before he witnessed a murder that would change the course of his entire life. She warns him. He survives. But changing one thing in the past changes everything in the present, including her own existence. Oriol Paulo's directed this, and Mirage is his most technically ambitious film. The time travel mechanics are not casual. Paulo builds a set of rules and applies them with a rigor that means every consequence of Vera's intervention follows logically from the change she made, and every attempt to correct that consequence generates new ones that the film tracks with complete precision. Adriana Ugarte plays Vera across both timelines with a performance that has to hold two completely different versions of the same life simultaneously. This is a film about time travel paradox as emotional experience rather than logical puzzle, about what it costs to change something in the past, and whether the version of your life that results is one you can accept. The answer Paulo gives is not comfortable. The film has two twists. The second one arrives when you think it's over. One of the finest Spanish thrillers of recent years, barely discussed outside Spain. Number 1. Upgrade. Before Leigh Whannell directed one of the best horror remakes of the last decade, The Invisible Man, he made this. And if you want to understand exactly why a studio handed him that project afterwards, this is the answer.
Can I have everybody's attention? I'm looking for the guys who murdered my wife.
Gray Trace is in a car accident that kills his wife and leaves him paralyzed from the neck down. He's then offered an experimental implant called STEM, an AI chip that restores his mobility completely, more than completely. And then STEM starts talking to him and offering to help him find the people who killed his wife. What follows is one of the most purely inventive pieces of action filmmaking of the decade. Whannell choreographs the fight sequences using a specific camera technique. Fast, swooping, almost robotic in its movement, that makes every confrontation feel genuinely unlike anything else in modern action cinema. Logan Marshall-Green plays Gray with a physicality that shifts scene to scene, between a man relearning his own body and something else entirely operating it for him. And underneath all of that, the action, the body horror, the sleek near-future tech, is a twist ending that recontextualizes the entire film. I will not describe it. I will only say when it lands completely, and it changes how you understand every single choice Gray made up to that point. Made on a budget smaller than a single episode of most prestige television, reviewed almost universally well, seen by almost nobody. This is the most purely entertaining, most technically inventive, most criminally underseen science fiction film of its decade. That's the reason it's on number 1. That's the end of today's list. 15 genuinely great sci-fi movies, all sitting in Netflix's library right now, buried under whatever's trending on the homepage this week. Now I want to hear from you. Which of these have you already seen? And which one are you watching tonight? And out of everything on this list, which film do you think deserves way more recognition than it's actually gotten? Also, how did you like this video? Your feedback genuinely helps me make better recommendations and create videos you'll enjoy even more. And if you enjoy the video, do like and subscribe to our channel. Thank you for watching, and I will see you in the next video.